Did you know there are 7 Home Alone movies? It's more than just Macaulay Culkin in New York for the sequels, and it is a rapidly deteriorating franchise. Over the years, every Christmas, we've covered a little bit of Home Alone. It's like the rare live-action content we actually make, and now we've reached the point where we have touched on practically every single movie, and especially because we like to dig on the terrible ones, there is a lot of stuff to go through. So we're going to touch briefly on the good Home Alones you know, breaking down just how well produced these iconic Christmas sequences roll out. And then we're going to dive in directly to Home Alone 3, 4, 5, the Disney Plus reboot, and don't forget Bone Alone. If you haven't heard of that movie before, strap in. It's Home Alone again. One of the greatest movies of all time and timelessly on loop every Christmas season. We make a new Home Alone video every year, so check those out if you're craving more of the Christmas season, but this year, let's keep it simple with the scene that changed Home Alone. What is the single best scene across this masterpiece? What was the secret core piece that resonated with audiences to become an example of eternal iconage in the film industry? I mean, there are loads of options. Typically, we all come for the action sequence against Harry and Marv, but there's also the heartfelt discussion with Marley. My god, I just looked up the casting for character names, and Robert Blossoms was looking fine back in the day. Anyway, other options are, of course, the ice cream sequence, the shooting a gun, the shopping sequence where the bags get broken, screaming Kevin in the plane, the look what you did, you little twerp, the overslept frantic morning, all sorts of things. But scrolling through all of the options we have, the scene I want to talk about today is the one whereby Macaulay Culkin, Kevin McAllister actually sets up against the big final act. We come off the cuffs of the friendly scene with Marley over in the church as Kevin learns some words of wisdom as well as not to judge a book by its cover. And so he says his goodbyes.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And so with that last story beat done, it's time for what we've all come here for. But after 5 Home Alone sequels didn't scratch that itch in their reinterpretations, yes, there are 5 sequels including Home Alone 2, and more if you include unofficial dog attempts. Let's see how the original tackled the task. Oh, it's so punctual and so simple. Not to mention it splices between diegetic and non-diegetic sound by using the bell toll as the starting beat that then leads into this remix, essentially. Oh, of course, since we're leading to a montage, we're not going to be getting much in ways of dialogue, but it's the attitude of the score that really starts bringing it together, with an immediate kick in to get us pumped up for future events. What follows next, strangely enough, is Kevin returning home, but it's not a simple cut to him at the front door. No, instead we get to watch in a series of long takes Macaulay walking across several vast streets. All the while the soundtrack is still going hard in the background. Perhaps it's just so we have more time for that soundtrack to sink in to us audiences. We've really got to milk the composer while you can. Perhaps it's because the filmmakers know that for any good build-up, you need to take it slow. I mean, look at how much runtime this movie has on setup over actual confrontation compared to the sequels. Or perhaps it's just the style of more traditional filmmaking. Quick cuts and skimming corners is much more common in the script font of modern-day movies. So maybe it's just a remnant of the old, long takes of the past. I don't know why it's there, but I do know it works. Until eventually, Kevin makes it home.
This is my house. I have to defend it.
And thus, we kick off into our montage. Future reboots may try to replicate this moment of a final word before the action,
Locked and loaded.
but it doesn't hit the same, and so it begins. This shot, again, is pushing on my limits of only being able to show 6 seconds at a time. For just simply showcasing a drawing of a battle plan, it sure does take a bit of time to reach it, when a simple pinning on the wall could suffice. But that's exactly it. If each setup piece is perfectly placed off screen, then you lose one of the most integral traits of your underdog kid protagonist, relatability. Kevin is kind of wobbly rolling it all out. He's a little out of his depth, and that only acts to humanize him more as he's set up against this monstrous task. It's so simple and probably just a subliminal detail, but it's something we lose so quickly when trying to strike lightning a 3rd or 4th, 5th rebooted dog time. Here's Kevin placing down Legos, the score now using lighter instruments as it's kind of a small thing, like a Tom and Jerry interactive soundtrack. big bass for big movements, and lighter instruments for the small stuff, and composition to give us a little more context as to where this is being directed to, with the door in the background commandeering about half of the frame. We won't always get that kind of context, but it's good to start clear for your first example. And though the zoom in is just following through, it's nice to see Kevin actually adjust one of the trucks as if every small detail matters. And like here, you're a little more in the dark as to where it will lead. I mean, to me, it's probably one of my favorite traps of the entire film considering the perfect delivery it leads into. And though it might go over some audiences' heads this time around, at least it's still clear where it is so far, easing audiences into the mystery with each montage step. And now we've evolved into a full-scale mystery shot, kind of. It's always nice to see regular, homely props used for another purpose as we only see a single hand grabbing some kind of prong out of context. But what really shines is the extra effort added to incorporate a second hint in the same shot, with just a simple pullback to focus on a chair and residing tarantula, establishing it again to remind audiences of its existence. As this was initiated earlier in the film too, when Kevin collapsed Buzz's shelves and accidentally released the thing. Not to mention, having an unexpected element that even Kevin doesn't realize makes the whole sequence seem all the more interesting, as not even the mastermind kid knows where this is going, as well as makes him not so omnipotent and overpowered. Oh, I bet they loved when the tarantula finally moved on cue. Here's a follow-up piece of context in the very next shot, hence why I said kinda. Though, as we haven't gone full out of context just yet, it's just another step in easing us in. And you know, it's actually quite gripping to see a little bit of VFX in this shot. I'm not quite saying I want a full-on CGI Home Alone in a sci-fi setting, I think, but suddenly seeing a glowing red hot prong ups the stakes a little and gets you invested to see how it'll come into play. Maybe I do want a sci-fi Home Alone. If they're gonna retry to hit this itch anyway, might as well set it in space or something, or fantasy lands. More water and more stairs, and though you could probably pass just the back entrance going down to the basement, it's a bit tougher to tell with this swiftness of the shot. Plus, you're always wondering if this is actual water or some mysterious chemical Kevin has access to. Of course, for that, Kevin will have had to actually interact with it already in this film, as every trap piece is essentially foreshadowed during all of Kevin's Home Alone escapades, which is just great storytelling. Tar. Displayed in big clear text on the side of the can facing the camera. What's getting progressively less clear is where we are. Kinda looks like some kind of desk at first, and the lighting suggests it's the basement, but actually it's more stairs. I quite like the ambiguity of some of these shots, and it gives just a hint without full on spoiling exactly what fate awaits our bandits. And now we finally have no context at all. This is just a piece of arts and craft built at a crafting desk. And a nail sticking through some paper is all we have to go on. You never know it was made for more stairs. Unless you're supposed to surmise we're free for free on stair prep. And a nice little tap for extra flair, as any kid would probably do after this project. You just can't resist. And now we're upping the scale as Kevin runs outside towards his little treehouse, camera pulling up before we switch 180 degrees to face the other end of the rope attached to the top floor. I was wondering for the longest time how Kevin feasibly fit the rope into place here, but it makes a lot more sense going from house to treehouse than trying to fix it the other way around. He just had to throw it all out the top floor before this shot to the treehouse. Anyway, Kevin now has fixed it in place with a tight knot. Light illuminates him clearly against the dark exterior and establishing a direct link between the two buildings. Nice. It's not all weapons that are being prepped in this montage. Here's some non-contextual glue, and again, it's nice to see just ordinary props used elsewhere as well, like how the salt and pepper are acting as paperweights for the plastic food wrap we're gluing to. This later is used for when Harry walks through a door and to feather him up. Speaking of, here's the feather fan. Probably not needing much more clues to assume where this is going. It's literally like something out of a cartoon. And in keeping it Christmassy, since we've mostly just used general utilities up to this point, we've got everyone's favorite crunchy carpet hazard. Bit of an odd placement for them until you realize this is exactly where Kevin spotted Harry last time when putting up the baubles in the first place. And here's the start of one of the most iconic attacks, the swinging paint can. almost unrecognizable without the pendulum movements, and are lingering on that shot for more of the tarantula, in case you forgot. And so that concludes our montage of preparations. Funnily enough, the film likes to blur the line for a bit of humor as we return to the slice of life with a simple shot of a room Christmasified with lights and a microwave. Perfect for heating up some other trap, but no, it's just dinner. A kid needs to eat. And seeing him grab the hot plate with 2 oven mitts used incorrectly is again just that perfect little extra taste of flavor to showcase how he's still a kid and doesn't know how to handle everything himself perfectly. He's just an engineer at heart who will tackle it in his own way. It's such a simple gesture on the director's part, but it is so endearing to coloring your character correctly. And thus, as the robbers come driving into place and they discuss their plan of action,
we'll go to the back door.
Kids are stupid.
Even this moment alone adds so much to the whole sequence, as it's setting up for the satisfying turnaround by having these villains so clearly underestimating Kevin. Kevin may make one of the best versions of Kevin we've ever seen, but these villains as well do so much of the heavy lifting to really sell their ultimate downfall. We're now perfectly set up for the bandits who underestimate this kid and a mansion full of goofy entrapments. We equally have a good chunk of context to guess what's coming next, as well as still being in the dark since many traps weren't shown at all. But for one final kicker, we come back to Kevin just trying to enjoy a Christmas dinner, as that is the true spirit of the season, even if he doesn't have his family to share it with this time.
Highly nutritious microwavable macaroni and cheese dinner.
He's a little confused, but he's got the spirit. And once again, it's shot as a simple slow take with the camera slowly zooming in as Macauley Culkin tries to deliver this lengthy, complex line. Until it is time. Interrupting even his makeshift Christmas. How symbolic. But no time to be Macauley Culkin, so he blows out the candles, runs to the door, and gives us one final word before the big act.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
Not some big, overconfident stance this time, but one of real courage, as he's probably saying this because he is scared in the back of his mind, but has the tenacity to power through. And from there, the robbers are succinctly tripped, burned, glued, smashed, scared, swung, and twonged over the next 14 minutes. But none of it could have been achieved so satisfyingly if not for the carefully plucked collection of setup both immediately beforehand and scattered across the entire first 2/3. What was the secret ingredient that had Home Alone succeed so well here when future installments failed? Probably a tumultuous amount of things. The lengthier shot cinematography, the build down of context, the relatable fumblings, the small details, the spiritual essence of Christmas, and the masterful score throughout. All of it comes together to create a product that's clearly made by expert craftsmen with an eye for detail and care. Whatever the secret sauce is for this formula of a movie, it's clear that the original has all the rest beat. And this scene that changed Home Alone is just one piece of a masterfully crafted piece of work, and forever plagued us with repeats that missed out some of these core traits. Thank goodness we can always return to the original. Alright, well now that the good is over, Macauley Culkin is long gone, and what better way to handle the mainline sequels 3, 4, and 5 than doing all 3 at the same time? Now come and enjoy the Home Alone movies we don't talk about.
But there's more to the Home Alone story. There's a small little blip on the Home Alone radar that many of us choose to ignore, pretend it doesn't exist, and bury deep into the basement, never to be confronted and revealed again. And that, of course, is the Home Alone movies nobody talks about. Home Alone 1 is the classic foundation, starring Macaulay Culkin, hosting all sorts of unforgettable lines, beats, and moments, and generally being a pretty flawless film. The sequel then expands on much of that same formula with the same cast popping up, with some extra extensions with hotel villain Tim Curry and the President of the United States making a cameo appearance. But then, Home Alone 3 happened, and the Home Alone franchise died. And then they made another, and apparently another one in 2012 too. Oh god. Well, you may have known that all 3 exist, but I highly doubt that you want to sit down for 6 hours and consume them all. But don't worry, I did it for you. Today we're going to be looking too far ahead to the latter Home Alone films and what made them so flawed. Chances are we'll never get another great Home Alone movie or anything, but we can at least point and laugh in the face of those that tried so hard to make more money off a tradition that really needed to be left alone. So since we're only just starting up in this 5-movie comparison, setup is very important. On the YouTube side of things, we're going to be tackling all movies simultaneously to see how each take on certain key elements of the Home Alone formula. Starting with, very fittingly, the setup of each film. So we all know the first 2 films, right? Home Alone 1 has Kevin McAllister accidentally left behind after the family rush off to go on holiday. In the second, it's him again joining them a little bit further, but being detoured in the airport and left alone in New York. Generally, they're pretty samey, same people, same concept, all accidental and kinda insinuating bad parenthood. It's just an unfortunate collection of factors that push everything together. The future films, however, don't like this approach. Home Alone 3 stars new kid Alex Pruitt and his new family, which is much more compact than the extended McAllister collective. Oh hey, it's Scarlett Johansson. His parents are simply hard workers with big events going on right now while he's got the chicken pox. So he's home alone all day with an illness whilst the family returns every evening. Kinda takes away an element of the Home Alone feel when they're just returning each night, but hey, it's refreshing. Home Alone 4 then goes off the deep end. There is no Alex Pruitt and there's no Macauley Culkin either. But the characters are the same. This guy now is Kevin McAllister. The family is compact again, but there's Buzz, and that's Megan. You're making sense of this, right? Well, it goes even further now as the parents are getting a divorce, and Kevin chooses to spend Christmas with his dad over his mum. There, he gets to handle a big fancy mansion with voice recognition and 2 fancy staff members as well. And a pretty pompous stepmother. You can start to see there's flaws already, but opening up a big mansion with rich gear is a new direction. And then there's Home Alone 5, released a whole 21 years after the first. It's modern-ish day. Now we have a new family moving into a new home, and 2 kids are left home alone, Finn and Alexis Baxter, as a snowstorm blocks the parents out. This house is big, seemingly haunted, and has a secret basement compartment at the bottom. Now that's just the setup of the families, and you can already feel a lot of interesting new directions the franchise plays with. Judging by that alone, it almost doesn't sound too bad either. Home Alone 1 gives us a big fancy mansion which worked great, but small house, tech mansion and haunted mansion are somewhat twists, and the family dynamics mean casting less people, which I guess is a win. But where we really go off the deep end is the villains concept. Home Alone 1 had Harry and Marv, a classic duo of clowns wanting to rob houses for money. Easy to grasp, fun to watch, and they make simple sense. Home Alone 2 brings them back, wanting revenge and stealing again, and it gives us some hotel staff as well. But Home Alone 3? What could be wrong with Home Alone 3, you ask? Well, I can explain it all with just one line.
We think he intercepted a top-secret electronic device stolen from a Defense Department contractor by a group of international criminals working for a North Korean terrorist organization.
Yeah. Believe it or not, this film actually has the same writer as the first 2, but the director and composer had dropped out at this point. And you can kinda tell. Home Alone 3 has 4 thieves, that's right, 4 thieves! Peter Boper, Alice Ribbons, Burton Jernigan, and Earl Unger. Don't worry, I'm not able to keep up with them either. And it doesn't help that they're all similar looking too. So the reasoning behind their story is that they're after a chip that can control missiles and own the world. They accidentally lose it in luggage at an airport, which ends up in Alex's possession. The thieves come to the suburb and search through all 14 houses there trying to find it. And twist, they attack in broad daylight because in the suburbs, everyone's out in the day. Cool. Already a little bit lengthy there, so here's Home Alone 4. Home Alone 4 has Marv return. But it's not Daniel Stern either, and he's not with Harry, though he mentions him a lot. He's with his now wife Vera. They want to kidnap the prince who's guest appearing at the rich mansion on Christmas Day, and they're backed up by an inside man in the staff department. Also note that Kevin knows Marv from last time, which only adds more questions since this is the first reboot we've seen with all of these actors. Home Alone 5 does its own thing with the thieves being an old man Sinclair, a doting woman Jessica, and a black safecracker Hughes. I never actually managed to pick up their names while I was watching this film, but hey, it's slightly more diverse with gender and race being represented. They're after a lost painting worth $85 million hidden in the empty house, with the old man being directly connected to the painting. In concept, I guess it's not that bad. It's easy to follow and fairly simple too. But of course the idea isn't the make or break of a good film, and considering these are sequels, half the idea is already melded from the original. So we're going to move on to presentation next, which has quite a few sub-elements. So as we mentioned before, these later films aren't created by the same guys as the original. That's pretty obvious, I'd say. With Chris Columbus only directing 1 and 2, and John Hughes writing the first 3, and credited for the characters of 4. Score composer John Williams also dropped out after 2. So how does this meld in practice with the later films? Well, the original film and 2 were meticulously filmed with a tactic in mind. It was literally built to be as nostalgic as possible, reaching into childhood innocence and fantasy with low camera angles, childish activities, and a message that all can feel through either excitement or memories of their own past. What's the very first thing OG Kevin does when he's home alone? He goes crazy with the freedom he wants. Not only because the writers clicked into the wonders of what a kid would do, but it also links into his story about falling out with his family and getting what he wants. Similarly, 2 has Kevin manipulating the world of New York around him with confidence. And this is one of the first steps that I feel the future films really missed out on. Home Alone 3's Alex is home alone sick, and though he never acts ill throughout the entire film, he's also not bouncing around either. When free, he's not particularly looking forward to it and simply plays calmly in the attic with his rat and telescope until he spots the thieves in another house. Home Alone 4 does have that excitement over the new expensive tech of the mansion, which is good, though whether through directing choices or through bad acting, it doesn't really sell nearly as well as the first and feels a mighty bit shorter as well. Home Alone 5 has none of that excitement as the kids are glued to their devices doing the same as usual. That kid wonder is lost on them for a more realistic approach to always being able to do what they wanted beforehand. So there already is where most of these films fall short at an early step. These films have little nostalgic factor to them because the universal feeling of freedom and ecstasy is lost on that childhood innocence. But of course, there's more. Let's move back to those thieves. Harry and Marv have a great dynamic and chemistry between the two of them, with the evil smart man and the goofy sidekick, who balances being funny yet not annoying perfectly. You can tell who's who when there's just 2 thieves, and generally they're fun to watch in every scene they're in. Home Alone 3 is a villainous mess. With 4 characters, it's hard to follow character traits and relationships. For the longest time, I thought the dynamic was Mother Bear and her 3 boys going forwards, but it turns out this guy is the leader. Both him and the girl are pretty serious, whilst they are clearly less so, and I have no idea what to think of this guy. Is he in the middle or something? I guess they just duplicated Harry and Marv to get 2 of each, without the positive traits? Because also, there's very little jokes between them all, and they certainly have no chemistry. But if that's bad, then just listen to Home Alone 4. With it being Marv in charge, the goof is set to only continue, with Vera being dumber than Marv. A real Dumb and Dumber story here. And you know how I mentioned OG Marv balanced annoyance well? These guys don't. Being intense slapstick melted down for 4-year-olds. There is also the staff member being the straight man Harry type, but she doesn't redeem the film. And Home Alone 5 was almost good. It did several parts so right. You can tell who's who, their character traits are clear, and you can understand their motivations and thoughts. But man, are some of those traits bad. The old man is great, he's focused on the task and evil-ish. But the other 2 are comic reliefs done poorly. The doting woman is constantly crying over an ex, be it through remembering him in a conversation or on the phone, and the safecracker is new at this, and dumb enough to eat food, which is fine, and shout out loud to see if anyone's in. Pushing a little beyond Marv levels of annoying, and together they're just a pain to witness. Plus, pretty stereotypical too, which isn't too great. Part of the joy of the first films is enjoying the villains just as much as the good guys. Every scene with Marv and Harry, or Mr. Hector and Cedric, were fantastic to watch. But by dropping the ball on half the main characters, all 3 super sequels lose a massive piece of the original successes. And I've been trying to avoid it as best I can, but I gotta mention it eventually. The acting. Home Alone 1 is goofy. It was directed to be goofy. Frantic classical music, unrealistic direction to sell an iconic line. And of course, the physics. But the acting behind it all, despite the wacky world, is what really elevates these films to age so well. Macauley Culkin is a great child actor with a fantastic scream that certainly isn't underused. And the thieves perfectly balance serious plans with funny dialogue, comedic timing, and goofy responses when the time comes. Again, when it comes to those screams, they are on point and fully utilized. The future films miss out on this massively and is probably one of the biggest flaws. Home Alone 3 has Alex, who's docile, blank-slated and not one for screaming. Apparently, he's just never really scared. And the villains, well, they're pretty serious, lack chances for comedic timing, and when it does come to those screaming moments and reactions, something feels a little underdone. Home Alone 4 perhaps noticed this, and so on the directing side of things decided to turn up the goofiness to ungodly levels. The kid is pretty standard. I only ever really felt true joy in the shot of him with the spinning chair, but the thieves are too much. Far too much. Even on their first attempt to approach the mansion, it's crazy over the top and pretty unfunny too. Any tension from the first film is lost for dumb spectacle. And that kind of directing just makes for seemingly bad acting. How many times can you fall over from spraying water? Apparently that's your answer. It started on showers which weren't manipulated to spray forwards or anything, so it doesn't even make sense as a trap. This kid is also never scared, but I guess that kind of makes sense this time around. And then Home Alone 5 took note of that and did the complete opposite, with the complete opposite results. It's 90% realistic. The two comic reliefs are outliers that don't look too good, and the thieves are frozen at the end. Everything else is pretty real. Both the reactions, traps, and physics are completely toned down to what can be done. The only fantasy element is the time-lapse effect on the trap making, removing any of the childhood wonder of the first film with fun silhouette tricks or the over-the-top bombastic fun of explosives or face crushing, whilst other films overdo the goofiness in a poor way that lacks comedic timing or general entertainment for anyone above the age of 6. So I've been touching on jokes a lot, but let's properly focus on them now. Home Alone 1 and 2 are a comedy, you can tell, from the subtle lines at the start,
When I grow up and get married, I'm living alone.
to the slapstick of the villains that honestly I probably don't even need to show you footage of, you know what I'm talking about. Home Alone 3 gets too confused in its plot to be funny. I like one joke at the airport.
Miami, New York, and Denver lounges. Nothing.
Bars, restaurants, club lounge, clean.
When I was in the John, I didn't see anything in there.
But beyond that, it attempts to reform jokes and fails. Here's another clip.
Marv,
Harry?
where the hell did you take your shoes off?
Why the hell you dressed like a chicken?
You got a haircut?
Nope. And then there's the adult jokes that are just terrible on their own and poorly hidden too. Here's one of Home Alone 2's adult jokes.
He says if I walked in there and saw him naked, I'd grow up never feeling like a real man.
And here's Home Alone 3.
Alex slammed the toilet seat down on his thing again.
I'm innocent.
My kid slammed the toilet seat on this thing again.
Just asinine in that writing room. Home Alone 4 is all goof, but the jokes in it aren't any good. Most come from Marv and Vera's lack of smarts, and none really fly, especially when they're over-explained.
3 words, Vera. Kid, nat, pig.
I think there's only one more.
I do love watching her hyperventilate. It's one of the few pleasures of this job.
Is that meant to be a joke? That's absolutely horrible! She's not that bad a character, my god! And Home Alone 5 very much has the same problem. There are jokes, but none of them are really good or smart like the originals. My favourite is the overused tropey one.
50% for me, 50% for Jess, 25% for you.
But reused jokes aren't good jokes. So for a moment, let's go back to the good old days again and talk about motifing. It's not usually talked about all too much, but can be pretty important or cool when it comes to sequels, and there's some interesting connections to how each film tackles the original film's motifs. So what I really mean by motifs is formula. There's several elements from the original that are picked up and sprinkled across the different films. Obviously, the main theme was dropped after the first 2 films, with Home Alone 4 really spitting on the score with this terrible, goofy xylophone track that just ruins everything about the Home Alone tone, god. But no, formula. For example, Home Alone 1 and 2 foreshadow all sorts of trap assets for later use, with the TV and the voice recorder being the most obvious. The other films miss out on this, with Home Alone 5 doing the closest job showing the safe beforehand. The building factors of circumstances is lost on later films too, with each next one having parents going to events and once struggling to get back, removing a lot of the loneliness tension. Kevin being a criminal does copy over kinda once, but that's about it. But oddly enough, the element of giving out advice and helping out a third-party character appears in all 5 films. I guess that's the one linking piece beyond the title. The middle films also create their own formula of having the parents shoot down their kids for crying wolf, though I guess that's kind of connected to how Kevin got told off twice in the first 2 films. But my personal favourite connection is in the very last one, where the painting being stolen was supposedly created by the same artist who painted The Scream, connecting the films to the posters of all of the films with that iconic look. Wow, that's pretty smart. And wow, you can see the acting quality as it goes further and further along time. Where are those eyebrows? Lift those eyebrows, man. You're even a man, this photo doesn't do you justice. Alright, we're coming to the last part of the video, so much like the films, let's show off the traps finally, shall we? They're the part that we come back to the films for anyway. Everything else is just a nice bonus. Home Alone 1 had illusions, trickery, ice, fire, and pranks. Home Alone 2 had drops, electricity, drops, explosion, drops, and drops, but my god, it was funny to watch. Every other trap kinda sucks. Home Alone 3 had glue, water, electricity, lawnmowers, drops, and illusions, which isn't actually too bad, but none of it is very iconic. Home Alone 4 had water and pots and pans and automatic doors. Meh. And Home Alone 5 had boots, snow, and luck. But hey, they made fun of the ice and then paid it off with the police, which was pretty good. Otherwise, literally it's just the thieves confusing themselves more than the kid. This, I think, is the other major misstep. It's pretty obvious. The traps are the best bit, and these films really have a lackluster and undercooked finale sequence. Add on to the lack of comedic timing with it all, and it's just a rehashed reimagining with less imagining. I mean, just look at Marv's responses to the next brick each time in the second film. Here, you can really feel the beats of the film. Everything else misses this entirely. Another spanner in the works for the traps is how they're approached. Harry and Marv split up, combine, and continue, which is great. The Korean terrorist group attacked from 4 angles, which is incredibly hard to follow simultaneously and only overcomplicated the film further. Marv and Vera stick together and are foiled in very uninteresting ways, and the art thieves slowly split up and struggle when combined, but with the minimal traps, it just loses any magic or joy that it could have had. But beyond all of that, forget the setup, the characters, the scenarios, the directing, or the acting, forget the formula, the jokes, the soundtrack, the iconic scenes, or the traps. There is one final massive thing that really shows why every future Home Alone movie has failed. And that is, simply enough, these are not Christmas films. They are just films that take place during Christmas. They have no Christmas message. Home Alone 1 is all about falling out with family, not wanting them, maturing as a person, and learning that Kevin does in fact want his family for Christmas. Nothing else matters. The same returns for number 2. Relationships and connections along the way are what matters. These films are all about the values of Christmas, and they're explained especially clear through Kevin asking God for his family back both times. You can bet that Kevin became a devout Christian considering God literally answered his prayers twice. Home Alone 3? Alex doesn't have a want for his family. He does his own thing, knowing that they'll just be back at nighttime. His family rush to his safety once they know, but it's just a broad happy ending. Home Alone 4? Isn't really about Christmas as much as it is about real family and about reuniting his real mother and father. He misses them being together, but they mostly just get together by chance. There's an element of preferring the personal element of Christmas over the material, but it isn't sold all too well. And also the stepmother's not really evil, she's just new and unattached to kids. But still, she gets everything stripped of her. It kind of felt cruel when I watched it again. And then in Home Alone 5, the kids really couldn't care less about family. They fell out at the start, had their devices, fought off the thieves, though were pretty scared about it, and were relieved once it was done, but didn't exactly learn that they wanted their parents for Christmas. They were almost a little too old for it anyway. Still, yeah, the happy ending is that they got material at the end. Ah well, it could have been worse. There'll probably be another one another day. But that is many of the reasons why these are the Home Alone films that nobody talks about.
And believe it or not, that is not even the bottom of the barrel for this franchise, as up next we have Asylum's Bone Alone. This is not an actual Home Alone movie, it is a rip-off made by a notoriously bad film production studio. God, they give me so much joy. And terrible titles alone are probably the best marker for the kind of quality you're about to see. Easily, possibly, one of the worst Christmas movies of all time, and certainly as bad as Home Alone gets. Please enjoy.
But while I figured I'd covered all the bases with Home Alone 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, apparently soon after I released that, I was told there was another. Something so daring and off-brand that it was a crime that I admitted it. So here we are, 12 months later, with the dreadfully photoshopped poster design that is Bone Alone. And yes, that's the actual title. It's not some kind of parody of a certain type of nature you can actually find online. It's real. Though in some places it's called Alone for Christmas. Boring. You know, from The Asylum, that iconic company that totally doesn't feel ominous as text at all. This obviously isn't part of the official series, but how bad could it possibly be? See, it's got the white snow, the Christmas music, and oh god, yeah, the animals talk in this film. This can only go one of two ways. Also, we're going to be rating this film just like we did last year to see if it's actually got the elements of a good Home Alone movie. You'll never guess the answer. So after a brief scene with terrible dubbing and awkward editing, we're greeted with the opening sequence, which is essentially just one big animation to explain the dogs' relationships so they don't have to recreate it in live action. It's efficient, I guess. With all the stock cartoony sound effects and minimal framework. Seriously, there's like no animation. Apparently this has a solid 5-star rating on Amazon Prime. We'll see about that. So finally, we reach our actual family. Wait, is that the dad from Wizards of Waverly Place? Oh, buddy, this was in 2013. After the series had finished? Oh no, his poor career.
I heard something downstairs. Columbus.
And there it is, folks. The dogs can talk, but the movie doesn't have the budget to CGI their mouths very well. Get used to the choppy cuts to these artificial face shots. Ugh. So the puppy hears something downstairs and senses danger. The oldie follows and they eventually investigate to find a doll in one of the presents, though the old one is blamed for the mess over the puppy actually doing the action. And the family all sporadically woke up to witness the aftermath, apparently. The old one's name is Bone, by the way, hence why it's Bone Alone. You'd think it'd be the puppy based on the poster, but you'd be disappointed. So now, some undefined time later, the mum is working out, the boy is on his flip phone in 2013, calling this the worst Christmas ever, and describing the tree incident as...
It was savage. Opened all the presents.
And the dad says Bone can't join them for visiting Grandma for Christmas because he's been too wild lately.
But Dad...
You can really feel the emotion in these child actors. I usually wouldn't put all too much on them, but their competition here is literally Macauley Culkin. Like, come on, a little bit of emotion, please. I do like, though, that the dad also wants them not to use the shower because the pipes and knobs are faulty. Doesn't really logically help Bone since he's not in the room, but at least we know. So Columbus, that's the puppy by the way, apologizes to Bone and he says it's no big deal, until he realizes it's more than just a timeout and says,
I'm going to miss the turkey dinner.
Again, can really feel the emotions in this. Don't worry, it seems to be a trait with everyone across the board apparently, because Columbus too has his dreadful delivery moment with...
Intruder!
And that intruder is this guy. I actually like this story beat. Sure, it's taken straight from the original, but it's like good storytelling to me. Anyway, he's overly jolly and a little bit weird, and the mum tells him that they're leaving for Christmas Day. He's Jake, by the way. And what do you know? He's a bad guy. In charge of a couple of kids, I guess. Forget a dynamic duo, this is a team of 3. And they're both the comic relief. This seems to be a running theme in the sequels of too many villains. I don't really see the appeal.
Hey!
That has got to be the worst editing and acting I think I've ever seen. And I watched Bulk. So the family are driving in the car, and I think the editor just forgot to take out the blue screen behind them. What is this background? Are they supposed to be driving on the sky or something? There's also more of this terrible editing mashup between Bone looking straight ahead when the daughter talks and then being off to the side on the master shot. You can't unsee it once you notice. And a lot of times these extra shots have no real spatial connection in the scene. It's everywhere in this movie. So Bone is dropped off at a kennel run by this guy.
he's just a weirdo dog person. It'd be interesting if he was another villainous type to spice up the plot, but no. They make a lot of jokes with him, calling the weather hot, saying his wife's name was Bone, liking dogs like his brother who he hates sometimes, and discounting money the wrong way, but they're all just terrible jokes. And they really drag out this scene.
You can take that and you can plug it into the worldwide internet, contraption.
What year is it? Isn't it 2013? The internet and live streaming really isn't that new. Eventually, after all the red flags, the dad drops Bone off. Oh boy. Bone attempts to talk to the others and one tells him to
Go away! Let's leave him alone.
And that's the end of that scene. The family drive and stop for hot chocolate and get to see Bone on the live stream, while the dogs talk about how the anxious one lost his bite by letting thieves into the house in the prologue and ruining Christmas for the family. He's a bad watchdog. And judging by the smell, they recognize it was Jake and that the same thing will happen to Bone's place. It's finally Home Alone time.
Have to stop them. Stop them? How? I can't call 911.
Even when I try to get into the plot, the voice acting is just too dreadful to keep me immersed. They also immediately follow it up with,
and we don't have thumbs!
Why do I even bother? And apparently even after this film's done, there's more Home Alone to come, cause get this, Disney Plus are making a reboot now, with Macaulay Culkin back and some newbies like Archie Yates. We'll talk about it more later, but seriously? I'm not done with this? So after some stupid hijinks and more bad jokes, Bone sneaks out pretty easily through an open door. Meanwhile, Columbus, who was left in the car, tries to save Bone by, get this, setting off the parking brake and crashing it to break a window. The animation, by the way, is just... oh, it's just so beautiful, isn't it? So Columbus has now hopped on the back of a truck and is somehow spotted by the daughter as he leaves. As Columbus rides back, Bone is running on foot and then on skateboard, apparently. Alright, this doesn't come back. And another running theme with these bad movies is just the terrible toy-like soundtrack. It's happened in other sequels, but when does this ever work well? It doesn't here. So Bone spooks the thieves with car alarms by pouring at the tires, apparently. What? And he gets to work on his traps. Digging into the wood, getting mousetrap glue, and constantly just giving us one-liners for each and every trap piece.
Will be a washout. We'll help them stick around.
How did you turn the Home Alone montage lame? None of this was foreshadowed earlier, there was no real time to think on these traps, and it all just kinda happens. Why does Bone have this level of intelligence anyway? And now the main event finally begins. The thieving. Featuring the smart one Jake, the dumb one at the back, and... the middleman. I don't feel what stands him apart from the trio, you know? Bad characters, right off the bat, that's what they are. So what is the very first trap of the film? Is it a slippery stairway, or a burning doorknob, a brick to the face, or a gunly illusion? No! It's just a hole. A hole.
Step bro, help, I'm stuck.
This middle guy, by the way, has the worst acting of the three by far with how little he can actually emote. And while the trio spend a million hours trying to pull him out, because the guy won't move his arms out of the way, Bone then comes along with a frying pan.
Who's doing that?
Honestly, the sound design makes it sound like he's mangling all of his bones, like a horror parody of Home Alone. Up next is...
slippery soap for slippery folk.
Whereby the thieves find a convenient ladder and a window, and as Dumbo climbs up it, Bone magically spews the ladder, isn't seen, and Dumbo falls down. And that's it. I mean, so far, even when we're at the good bit, it's just so lazy and boring. So moving on, Columbus is spotted by the owners of the truck and it's Santa, who are now set on getting him home.
This little one in back needs to be with family.
God, they played this cheesy. I wonder what the message is. Diesel, the other dog on the truck, meanwhile, is much more confrontational. He hears of the thieving plot that I guess Columbus heard through the iPads? They didn't really show that very well. And Diesel tells of his hardcore watchdog jugular biting days. And then the real family starts to catch up.
You have our dog!
Yeah, but I think you lost your kids in the back there. So with this being a conundrum, what is there to do? Well, Diesel then pulls out a spiked plank and decimates the family car to spin it out. What? Oh yeah, because that's how physics work. You thought the budget for the CGI Jaws wasn't enough? You haven't seen nothing yet. Time for trap sequence number 2. Jake sneaks into a window, steps on some sticky pads, and falls onto the floor. Quality. He's stuck with a wire trail until he just plucks it off, and then he lets the others in. Wouldn't the window be just fine? Dumbo finds some precarious jewelry, and remember that candlestick piece from before in the montage? Yeah, somehow Bone, I guess, ignited it entirely, and it stayed hot for like 20 minutes since the trap was made. So Dumbo grabs it, throws it away, and then Jake just magically catches it through like several walls and a floor, and then he knocks out the middleman with like a shot that's clearly just like, it's just in reverse or something. What is this terrible slap together editing? How badly do you have to film a sequence for the editor to have to stitch things up like this? Wow. Alarm. Really? Thanks. Like, this is worse than amateur filmmaking. And as a finale, Bone threatens them with a chandelier trap, which is really dragged out. I mean, there's like a million scenes of this same statue shot. Middleman wakes up only when it's convenient for the plot, and they dodge it. Why do these VFX shots always come with this artificial motion? It doesn't flow at all. Carolers are there at the door in the middle of the day. They disappear the moment the door shuts, and Jake then calls in for backup. Okay. Either way, it's another villain to the mix, and an expert. Someone even the others are now afraid of. Here he is, stealing dogs to claim the rewards. He's saying jokes, but forget about it. They're not very good. I need a break, I swear. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Mouse Hunt, with Lee Evans and the guy who voices Timon. That was all about chasing a mouse, and that did slapstick traps right. They even brought in an expert in that film a couple of times with some crazy results. Anyway, back to this.
It's a big
How does that even happen? And they dragged this out with like this not paying attention cliche for like a full minute, and I mean, how did it only make it that far off? So dog catcher Quentin arrives, demanding $60 over $50 and the rest of Middleman's burrito.
It's a chimichanga.
Who composed this scene? Have they ever heard of context and being good at their job? Jake then looks at the camera as he talks to Quentin, and he rants about dog scars he got and overdrags this one story about the mental scar of being in a plane crash with endangered rabid poodles. Okay. So with all this experience, what's Quentin's big trap plan? Fishing with a stake. Not even moving from the couch or anything. This ain't no mouse hunt. And during this, the dumb one needs to pee, bringing a random magazine with him because it's still the 90s apparently, and Bone hooks the stake onto him instead. Don't ask the logic of how he did it without any movement on the rod, or where the string went in this shot, or how the dumb guy doesn't notice the stake in his pants. And then they start yanking on him for a very, very long time. If this dude was some kind of genuine comic, then they could have really done something with this, you know? Some slapstick faces, an over-the-top crashing on the table or something. But no, we get this instead. Terrible dubbing and all. Dude looks at the camera, doesn't call out to the guys at all, finally grips onto a table that's clearly loose, and then crashes a bookshelf onto himself. And that's it. What a terrible, uncreative trap. Quentin then comes out with a taser rod, which he never thought of before, I guess, and looks around in boxes for bones. What? He approaches that same dull call from before, and then... I mean, jeez, why does this film have like a setting of no intensity or maximum? This is just ridiculous. It's not even delivered in a good slapstick way, you know, like in number 2. It's just surprisingly explosive sometimes, and then it's just as quick as one, because that's the end of Quentin. There's barely a gag in this. Now, sometime later, I guess, Bone drops a singing dog into a laundry basket, luring the middleman into the laundry chute and trapping him. All the while, we hear this singing for the next few minutes on repeat to bleed our ears out. And Bone finishes it off with, I'm not kidding here,
one pointed lawn dart.
You know, this would really translate better if you didn't immediately cut to the clearly unharmed backside of the dude. Sometimes I think the editor just tries to make it work with what they got, but maybe they're just as clueless as everyone else. Or it's all the director's doing. Dumbo steps on some flour, that's that trap. Oh, and he also puts hot sauce on his face with a towel. And Jake steps on Lego, classic, which somehow leads him to fall onto a bed? Alright. He now has squeaky footsteps, which honestly isn't the worst gag in the world.
if they tried to do a little bit more with it, you know, make him look ominous with the squeaky thing going against him. They don't try anything. It just gets annoying. It's very early on in the film still. Dumbo heads into the shower because he's never heard of a sink. Bone sneaks in incredibly slowly and traps him in the shower. And the water doesn't stop because the pipes don't work, remember? But sure, that one ball in the hole will plug up the entire thing. Wait, is that just a picture of a broom? What? Jake finds the middleman in the chute, removes the dart, and they bless us with... This is the character trait of the third thief. Was it worth it? That Jingle Bell song is still going on, by the way. Yeah, I feel ya. So Bone continues with his impromptu traps by now placing a grill beneath the middle thief, again with artificial VFX-y movements on the fire, cause of course there is. We'll come back to that later. Oh god, I swear these mouth animations just get worse over time. I'm starting to enjoy how bad it is. Columbus is listing things he wants for Christmas, but most of all, he wants...
my family to have a safe and happy holiday.
Wow, that's a surprise. That's actually one of the pieces needed to make a good Home Alone film. Make it all about family. Pretty much all the real sequels missed out on this. But here, they got it. The dogs want their family together and the family want their dogs back. Shame literally everything else is in shambles at this point. Also, the family learn that Bone is missing too now. Jake gets the middleman through the laundry chute and... this dude is literally a worse actor than the kids. Also, was that supposed to be a clever reference? It wasn't one of them. Dumbo's still in the shower, the others corner Bone, and suddenly Dumbo's underwater now. That was quick. And... oh, I feel it kind of loses its flair after a while, you know? It's got that shake, the bad scream, the lack of imagination, the terrible stitch job. It's just kind of running through the motions at this point, isn't it? And Bone is put in the cupboard. Time for a success montage, all with poppy lyrical music. Way to try to force content where there isn't one. Jake spends a full minute on shoes here, by the way. And then the music is stopped by the doorbell. It's Santa, delivering Columbus, of course. Jake preps to attack them, somehow, despite there being two of them and another dog, and they leave. And the dogs reunite in the cupboard. Meanwhile, the family are talking about the dogs. Because this is a dog film, if you hadn't picked that up.
And family always comes first.
Gee, I really wonder what the messaging of the film is, guys. Is show don't tell not a thing in this universe? So now Diesel is missing and Santa's only just noticed, and the thieves have succeeded. Jake, however, isn't satisfied.
I know they're gonna die. I wanna be there when it happens.
And on this one forced point alone, the plot just falls apart. Because of this, the dogs get free, Dumbo apparently teleports between the house and the van, and Jake rushes back to the house, forcing the others to find them. Dumbo searches boxes, because we're not done with that bit yet, though it's not even played as a bit. Jake mistakes dog toys for the dogs, and the middle guy finds treats for Santa on the mantle. But wait, if the family are gone for the week, then they just left out milk to go moldy and for the cookies to go hard? What? What is even going on at this point? And as he enjoys the treat, Columbus now manages to wrap rope around his ankles unnoticed, and they propel him up the chimney. Hey, this is at least the most creative trap so far. The execution, though, is still just pretty terrible. There's fake walls with a bad green screen job, and they don't even acknowledge the hair. Like, come on. They almost did something right. And then they turn on the fireplace. They just really want to cook this guy, apparently. And with almost a decent trap idea, how do they finish it up? What's this guy's character trait again? Dumbo's then here struggling to grab the damn dog, and Jake meanwhile is ready to fight Bone with his fists, and Bone retorts by, my god, turning on the treadmill and flipping forks onto it. Where did he get them? Why is Jake also bad at acting? And why is he telling him to stop like a human being? And then Jake just freaks out and jumps out the window. What is happening now? Oh, but we're not done yet. Dumbo is caught on some obvious string trap. He's clearly at the bottom of the staircase until he's not. He's dragged through the house, apparently bringing a door with him now. Thank you for the random VFX shake again. And he's strung upside down in the garage. Also, Jake reverse looks up to catch a lampshade with his head, also in reverse. Like, how do you mess this up in filming? And the sound of it. Like, did the dog make this? So with literally now just 5 minutes left of the film, the dogs celebrate with each other, Middleman pops up, Diesel comes in for the rescue just by running into the guy, so much for all the jugular talk, and the thieves are all wrapped up together. I legitimately have no idea why he's suddenly stopped speaking English at this point. Did he just go mad? His actions certainly seem to say so. Whatever. The family return to his ramble. They find their dogs and it's a happy ending. Guess Grandma's in for a lonely Christmas this time around because this is where the family is settled. Oh, and now there's a random police officer on the scene. Yikes. The boy describes the events and calls it the best Christmas ever, finishing his arc, but wait. Didn't he say...
So one of my dogs traveled cross-country with Santa...
How did he know that? Spoilers? And it's happy ending time. Ew. Also, more terrible cutting trying to tell a story. That wasn't us. That's literally how it cuts in the movie. And Santa returns to them randomly. Turns out they're the grandparents. They just weren't aware of the new house and the new dog. You're seriously telling me the parents didn't recognize their own parents' dog Diesel? Or that Bone and him never met before? Like, what is this? And so they react to weak CGI snow. The dogs are ecstatic to be related to Santa. And that's the end of the film. No Amazon. I don't think I will be watching Canine Christmas. This, surprise, surprise, was a terrible Home Alone film. I mean, let's just look at the core elements of what was needed. The setup behind the events give us a big, yet generic new house to explore with just some Christmas props and faulty pipelines to use for traps. The circumstances behind being Home Alone comes from just running back home to save a robbery, which is slightly new, but not that crazy. The villains are incredibly bad, both from a dynamic perspective and personality, as well as just the acting. Remember the screams and howls of Harry and Marv hilariously reacting to each trap? Those were the good old days. Where did those days go? Not to mention, the acting on the dogs allows for so little content for us. There's all these terrible shots of paws doing human things because they have to. There's no real sense of fear or tension as they act because they literally just can't emote. And then there's the jokes, fart jokes, over-explaining, dragging them out, cliches. They're just awful. And even the visual stuff just paled in comparison. Is this supposed to be compared with the chicken moment? Or how's about the motifing through the whole film? What was foreshadowed in the early moments of the film? In the original, the whole first half of the film sets up different props and elements to return, now in a new context. Here, we have the doll. There are reindeer props outside, and we get one pipeline. Magical. Also, the whole element of childhood wonder is lost when your protagonists are dogs with no attachment to freedom of alone time, and even with the jolly puppy, nothing really comes across with it beyond being a nuisance. The traps are terrible, as we've already practically seen. I mean, they're practically non-existent, really. And what was the messaging of the film? Okay, sure, they got that right. Family values, maturing as people, dogs, and brewing relationships. Kinda. Not really helping a third party about the values of Christmas or family or friendship though, so... Really, everything pretty much just falls flat on its face. And it's a shame, because it could have done really well. Talking dogs isn't always a disaster, but here we are, with another Home Alone shambles. You'd have to rework everything to make this one work, but I think I'd rather just watch some Mouse Hunt instead. Something with some real comedians to milk the moment, real slapstick with some genuine creative moments, and a real plot line that comes together and brews something more over time. And hey, they do all that with the animals staying silent in this one. I guess something about the 90s really kept up that magic. The 2020 way now is to reboot the thing on Disney+, so I guess next year we'll do a Home Alone is Coming Back video. Heck, it might even be here by this time next year. Filming started last February but was paused like everything else. And it's said to bring back Harry, Marv and Buzz as well as Macauley Culkin, and said to feature a kid stealing from another couple and trying to survive, an odd reverse plot point. We'll see how all of that turns out for them. They haven't got a lot of standards to beat looking at everything else.
And now finally, to wrap things up, there was actually one more recent Home Alone project. Do you remember it? It came out a good few years ago now, and I didn't really hear a lot of murmurings about it, but I certainly covered it the moment it happened. A very interesting portrayal of how wrongly to do Home Alone, and really breaks down how some of the elements just were not picked up correctly by the people at Disney. Either way, it's more terrible Home Alone, so please enjoy Home Sweet Home Alone, the terrible Home Alone reboot.
And this is the series that just keeps giving, as we now have a whole new installment, number 6 of the official list and our 7th run-through. The Archie Gates remake that is Home Sweet Home Alone. I don't have high hopes for this movie, but I do have a pretty decent idea of what makes a good Home Alone movie, having seen how it can be done badly 4-ish times now. So let's get into Disney rehashing an unoriginal idea once again, presumably with all the magic ripped out of it. So we start off with a bunch of people investigating a house to buy it. Not the worst start, I can see where it's going, giving us the foreshadowing elements of traps we'll see later. I know where this goes, I see what you're doing.
Open is my favorite concept.
Oh god, it's gonna be 90 minutes of this, ain't it? Forgetting the dialogue for a moment, the gist of this scene is people are looking to buy, this dolt isn't good at lifting the property up, and we are following our protagonist as he's driven to the place to go pee. That's the motivation. Alright. But it does bring up our first major scene. Archie, Max, confronts the dolt over a box of dolls and does his smarmy kid routine.
Oh, little boy doesn't want to share his dolly.
Until he's eventually taken away by his mum.
I'm sorry, has he been bothering you?
No, he's a delight.
And I can see what they were going with here, but they really could have built this up a tad, you know? Make this guy seem like he really hates this kid a little bit more to lead into where the plot goes later. This is just... And it's like awkward, some of this execution. I like the line...
What a McShane.
But then, as he drinks, the mum's just standing aimlessly as Archie powers up or something. And while disgruntled, Archie looks menacingly at the dolls. So driving home, Archie is upset for having to be cramped up with all their relatives, sharing one toilet and all that. But as the mum says...
Exactly, and Christmas is all about spending time with family.
Meanwhile, our other pair are hiding the fact that they're selling the house from the kids. Over to the other family, people are playing games, dad is grumpy, mum is on the phone, sister's in VR, kids are running around, uncle is sitting on the couch.
Sick of this bullshit!
Remember how in the original films we actually saw a little bit of each of the family relatives? There were these two whining about him, the snotty kid, Buzz, the big old bully, Uncle Frank, and they all to some capacity antagonize Kevin. Something goes wrong and everyone else hates him.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
He's not isolated just because it's cramped, but because everyone's a problem. But here we've got generic gaming kids who aren't even paying attention, and God forbid Uncle Stu can't work the homebot. It's just not the same. Archie hides in the garage, silently, while back in the day, Kevin full-on states,
I hope I never see any jerks again.
Fully leaning into what happens. Here it's just going through the motions. We have to fill in the gaps. Also in the middle of the night, the pair get a visit from their extended family. Why are there two families?
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, it's the last one.
Why does he remind me of John Mulaney? So I was going to the store! Anyway, the dolt here now comes to discover that the doll from before is worth $200,000. And it's missing. Time to visit the family, who are in a rush. Not like a rush from the original too, with montage, music, and fun to watch chaos, just a mild rush.
Is this a good time for a selfie in front of an Uber?
God, stop! But something I do like about this little intrusion is that the dolt does get some actual intel from this.
1112.
1112.
Well, that's a bad code.
And he sees the keys, but doesn't enter now. Nerves. But to be fair, same thing happens in the original. So now we have a bell ringing scene. Why is there so much on this couple? Are they the protagonist? Anyway, this scene is stupid. Speaking mid-performance where it's clearly not masked, like, is it supposed to be like the choir scene in number 2?
Like a light bulb.
Oh my gosh, this is so terrible.
Yeah. Hey, Max is awake. In the original, we get 2 minutes of wandering silence. Here, we immediately get to the motif.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Instead of leading into it more.
I made my family
disappear.
And you know, I think there's a bit of a Nelson Mandela effect here. As Max goes on to his 90-second montage of being a Home Alone kid and loving it, I wanted to check out the originals montage, and guess what? There is no montage. It's not a montage. There is just a fun track that plays as he bounces and screams, but that's all there is. Then it stops. And goes to a series of normal scenes.
Buzz crate, shooting a gun, ice cream and film, sledding, all taken about 4 straight minutes, compared to 90 seconds of much more generic enjoyment, not so young kidly, and with Christmas music rather than just happy music. Something about it is just inferior. Maybe part of it is because Archie is 12 and Culkin was 10 and looking even younger. This feels like a young teen approach, rather than the much more fun and innocent original. The next scene we're just gonna skip. It's not fun, funny, or needed. I guess just turning the mum to wanting money now. How dare you stand where he stood? This moment's for a scene of envy, recontextualizing a happy song into a sad scene for an emotional hook. It's not a scene about happy memories because the song is called Somewhere in My Damn Memories. And it looks awful. What is this feathered vignette? Just play the scene with some nice romanticized bloom or something. This aesthetic is terrible. But now, the parents go for break-in attempt number 2. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. What's the point of giving that dolt the code if he just still fails it? Anyway, the thing that kicks this whole thing off is one verbal miscommunication.
All we have to do is find that ugly little boy.
But we're still not on the actual fun bit yet, because the police got called from that code.
Evening.
Oh, hell yeah! The actual actor of Buzz is in this movie? That's a great reference! He's duped by some basic flirting. Max doesn't come out to explain why it's safe because of course he doesn't, and he moves on. It's actually because Max thinks the parents will be arrested for negligence, but again, the aesthetic looks the same as reliving memories. I hate this blurring. But Buzz gets going. I look forward to Buzz's next appearance. Oh, by the way, Max's family have twigged on now, though the realization is off-screen. They're just arguing instead.
We didn't take a census.
And the dialogue is awful throughout. Get that Toblerone out of my face! Okay, there's one good joke here.
Where's my passport?
It's in your hand.
It's in my hand.
Oof, all these comedy actors, and this is the writing's best joke. Synced up now is a couple police scenes. I might like the new one better. It's Buzz again, disputing the call for help because...
That is a prank call. We forgot my little brother, Kevin. The idiot does it every year.
And we get some world building. Kevin McAllister went on to create modern home security. We see it all over the film. That's amazing. And it opens up for Kevin to make an appearance since he clearly calls every year and he hasn't done it this year because he thinks it's this one. I see where this is going. This is a post-credit scene in the making. Huh. Next day, Max sees the same baby in a major scene. Cool. And then at church, the 2 boys from each family meet. I like that. Talking about family issues.
That's the coolest thing ever. I thought it would be.
Why couldn't you show us this? Why are you telling us? And then, because the plot demands it, the old dolt spots Max. So before he returns, they attempt break-in number 3. Now's the time! Anyway, mimicking another scene, it's more wasted comedy. The original has it kinda wholesome that she waits at the airport and says bye to the family there, or when complaining later, she bargains for tickets by saying she'd sell anything, the value of family. Here, she's just a nuisance and joking on language barriers. The mum's not even supposed to be a comedic role, really. Back to break-in number 3, I actually think this could have been an iconic scene. At church, their daughter is singing. It's beautifully Christmas. And as the 2 are trying to scale the wall, everything falls apart. The slow-mo, the action, the musics, the cuts. Why did you have to ruin it like that? And as the most thematic part of all, they're missing the true meaning of Christmas. They're not with the family. But it doesn't seem to click for them.
Try the door, okay?
I do really like this first trap though. A hidden pool is horrifying. And they give up. What we get next is the mum again on flight with a funny interaction with a passenger. This is a full minute long. Oh hey, we're 1 hour in and finally focusing on Max. He's heard the parents plan to invade that night and is prepping. Up to this point in the original, we've had a second series of Kevin doing what he wants. Aftershave, shelf, shopping, I guess that was the charity bit. Scary third party, ice chasing, villain fleeing, hiding in the nativity scene, or big one, showing off his engineering prowess with a whole fake family scene to full break-in attempt number 2. As well as audio work for the pizza guy, realizing he actually wants his
family back, aftershave again, shopping again, misfortune, adulting, another fear, and firecrackers to stop a break-in. There's so much of Kevin to see, and it's all packed in so well. What has Max done? He's had 90 seconds earlier, and since then, window watched, talked to HomeBot, grabbed toys, and window watched again. With Kevin, we saw his daily routine every morning, and you see him mature. Here, Max doesn't do anything, and he's the reason we're watching this film. But now he's putting in some engineering work. Not that he's really shown it before, and not that any of this has been foreshadowed, but sure. In the original, Buzz's tarantula is wandering all the time. In this, we've got foreshadowing for the wrong house.
And you knock one down, the whole place could collapse.
This never happens! Why is it here? But hey, at least there's a nice aesthetic now. Rotoscope transitions. As Max suddenly whips out a bunch of engineering skills. This is a 90s trope and comes out of nowhere in this context. And it's that same music from the original. I actually quite like the addition of the cringy, rich singing. And with the evening done, it's go time. This is the highlight we all come to Home Alone for. In the original, Kevin pumps himself up.
This is my house. Don't get scared now.
The remake?
Locked and loaded.
It's not the right tone. Anyway, Trap 1 is some ice on the road, though it doesn't feel like a trap Max did. Or it's not shot to highlight the ice on the road. All we get is the line. I'm trying. It's so icy. Again, show, don't tell. Let us see those results. This just looks like generic bad driving. Next up is Icy Driveway.
Wow.
I think I shattered my cock.
Can we not have modern quippy dialogue? We've barely even started anyway. The running's not terrible, but half of the comedy of this franchise is the reactions of the villains. When Harry trips on ice, he gives us an... and Marv gives us... and that's their mildest response. It builds up as they go along. Next trap, hot sauce.
Why no hot?
That's not terrible. It's Following that is Coke and Mentos. I mean, I guess Kevin did kind of skip on the chemistry front apart from hot handle and explosive toilet, but even still, it's kind of generic, like basic engineering. Diluted crowd pleasers and incredibly hard to believe as a trap. Then he sets ladies' feet on fire with some Hot Wheels. Again, basic tools, and instead of a burnt reaction like... and obviously... she instead just breaks down crying. And I think this is a marker of a massive issue here. There is no villain to this story. The whole film has spent this entire time making the home invaders the protagonist with justified motivations so that you're kind of rooting for them. They just want their doll. So when they get hurt, it's not satisfying like Harry or Marv, and they're not playing up the comedy of it. They're victims here. Why is the kid coming off as the bad guy? The dolt's then coming through the door. Now he randomly gets the code right, but willingly just sticks himself with a nail. What is this? And then Max rocks up with a pool ball gun. Not an awful weapon or an unusual attack, mimicking the iron to the face for Marv, or the brick to the face for Marv, or the brick to the face for Marv, or the brick to the face. Except in this rendition... honey. Sure.
Oh no!
He's hurting me, fam.
This is grotesque. It's awful. I feel so sorry for the guy because it doesn't feel like he deserves this. All the makeup doesn't feel cartoony. He doesn't bounce back to health like the others. This looks like it really hurts. And that's not fun. Putting him in VR is fun. Great trick for a dumb character. I could see Marv falling for this. But he's groveling in pain on the floor weakly. Also, did they just film this wrong? Why is he crawling back to the exact same position as the last attack for the door to mash his head? Anyway, lady. This then gets more grotesque. Harry and Marv got iced, burned, shot on their groin, legs, head, face, feet, everywhere. It's an attack on all of their parts. This lady here, not the same fate. Her feet are severely burned. She limps the rest of the night. And following up on that... ah! Spoon! Spoon? And then right on to the next basic joke, Lego.
I just stepped on a Lego. It's the most painful thing in the world.
This isn't just goofy fun, this is sadistic. The concentrated assault feels like it would be wildly more painful than what the duo who actually deserve it went through. I can't get across how much this approach makes me feel more sick than entertained. Oh, and by the way, the mum gets a second scene with the plane passenger. You know, the original's third scene has her breaking down at the airport before being given a lift from a polka band. Bit weird, but also a more interesting journey to see, and hits on that theme of Christmas. It's a wholesome moment about helping others, seeing family, and hey, it's a Christmas miracle that it works out. Same with the officer in number 2. It's like a wholesome Christmas-themed moment, conversation. But no, snot shoulder. That's the way to go. Hey, have we missed a scene? Why is her hair down now? God, this film is so inconsistent. And the blocking goes everywhere. The parents are already defeated. They just want to talk. They're looking at the kid and still get smacked with flour.
Stop and talk to us.
Oh, with a shredded milk carton as well? Please! This is horrid and also stupid, because they should clearly be able to see and react. I'll say it again. In the original... Heads up! It at least is hidden from view, and they lean into the reaction and follow it up with a climax to it in the sequel.
That's 2.
Oops. Here, Max can't even decide if he's left the room or just at the top of the stairs again leaving or waiting there again.
I think we should go back home.
I'm not laughing at this. This is sad.
You'll never find me.
Is that the motif for Mouse Hunt?
What's he doing?
I don't know.
It is! A way superior slapstick Home Alone-esque movie. God, what a rip-off this is. On both these movies. That's referring to Home Alone, not Mouse Hunt. We don't curse Mouse Hunt in this household. This next trap is toy guns. Or are they needles on the end?
Oh!
What is the...
That's so much fun! It was so much fun!
Why? I know there was a nail gun in the second movie, but I think it's a bit too much to be acupuncturing with 30 needles. And this is just stupid luck, poorly placed and meh on acting. Also boring. House invading can be fun if we actually get to the house. The dolt's not moved from the door. And for the one who is moving...
Well, hello.
This is evil. Please stop with the bloody feet. Oh my god. Burnt, spooned, legoed, needled, and now smushed. It's at this point in the film that we literally paused, cringed, and then had a whole discussion about how much we are not liking this movie and how it's grossing us out too much to continue. To the point where my girlfriend literally left and I had to watch the rest of this film alone because we're not a fan of seeing feet being completely violated in every form of pain. We assumed this was going to just smush her toes even more, and we're not here to watch that. That's not our thing. Turns out our imagination was way worse than reality. The feet stuff has ended now, thank God. It was a projectile attack. But even still, I felt physically sick watching this with how sadistically focused it was. The writing made us feel it was undeserved, the acting made us feel bad, and the violence was more intense, less cartoony, and more aggravated and directed. Oh, but it's not done quite yet. Dolt needs one more hit to the face, of course. Not a bad move, but taking out a tooth after all that? Oh, no! Oh, Kevin! Off! It's less gross in the original. And icicles. Yet another trap that's just so basic. And that's the sequence done. It is 15 minutes long. To be fair, it's the same in the first, but in that, it felt varied, creative, and taking place all over the house. Front door, back door, basement, window, upstairs. Here, the lady goes to one side room, and then back to the entrance, and one upstairs room. And the attacks themselves, I've already said, they're too focused on body parts, and also just really, really basic. The creativity of Max isn't there. He puts different balls in a gun. and uses Legos. I am both overwhelmed by how grotesque and violent and undeserving this all was, and underwhelmed by how quickly it passed, how little they covered, and how mild the entertainment factor was. I'm just whelmed. And all of that brings us to here. There is no bad guy in this story, just conflict of interests and a miscommunication. And finally, the pair get to talk things out.
We just want our doll back.
I didn't steal that.
Well then, this is just misleading your audience. What a lazy attempt at storytelling. So what's the ending of this stupid remake of a film? Well, there's no villains. So when Max says,
"It's just me,"
the pair take him in for Christmas. And with the mum?
We called her when she landed.
And we don't get to see any of that? We're just told? No swelling happy reunion? Alright then. As for the missing doll, turns out this kid had it. The night it goes missing was the night they arrived, and hey, they even attempted to hint this to you, stealing at the market as well as at the church, but it's so subtle and placed when you're looking elsewhere, I don't really think it's satisfying. We get one more moment of the slow-mo choir bit because they'll milk their one good thing and all is good. Oh, here's the mum. You know the conclusion I came to with every other bad sequel? None hit on the theme of the true meaning of Christmas. None go into the kid actually missing their family, and here, it's exactly the same. Max complains he's bored an hour in at the church, but he never says he misses his mum. There's no emotional, sad scenes with him. I bet he hasn't even been thinking about her this whole time. He's been too busy thinking about toes. Hand him over. It's the most important beat that is the backbone of this franchise, and it's like they've never realized this again. And then we jump to next year, where Christmas is spent with them. Literally like, screw the rest of the family, we don't like them anyway. On Christmas Day.
To new friends.
I'm sorry, who are you? They laugh about it, don't swell up the wholesome, don't end it on a jokey shouting line, they just call it a movie. And the worst part is, this was done by Disney. This was done by professionals. This isn't like the Bone Alone ripoff. These guys should know what they're doing, but don't even seem to understand the magic of Home Alone. They just crammed in comedians, clearly didn't let them improv, spat out a script, and called it a day. Give us a year or two and I'm sure we'll hear of Sweet Home Alone, Alabama, or Honey, I'm Home Alone, Home Alone on the Ranch, A Home Alone of Our Own, or There's No Place Like Home Alone. And there's millions more problems here. The snowy news plastered into scenes with no connection, the runtime of Max versus the parents, the dialogue, dated jokes like to O.J. Simpson, the blatant product placement that's insultingly bad, at least somewhat charming in the 90s. The just misleading narrative and weak twist. The trailer, oh my god, the trailer!
I am trying to get home to my son.
I feel like I'm in a parody with how much it kept repeating the song. It was like da 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 da. The fact that Buzz was entirely marketing bait. There was even room for a post-credit scene of Kevin calling him up. Don't need to see him, just have Buzz react, you know, be like, huh? Oh, you know, realizing he was wrong before. But nope. Or how we don't see that extended family while in Tokyo. They're just packed in the back. It's all god-awful. This was bland, it was basic, there's no charm, no message, no wholesome, and no creativity. This is shameful through and through. But we should have known. Macaulay Culkin confirmed he does not associate with the film, already red flag number one. But also, I'll leave you off on the thoughts of the original's director. The guy who knows how to properly put this all together. Even the small stuff like ice on stairs is funnier because of the sound of... Nobody got in touch with me about it, and it's a waste of time as far as I'm concerned. What's the point? I'm a firm believer that you don't remake films that have had the longevity of Home Alone. You're not going to create lightning in a bottle again. It's just not gonna happen. So why do it? What's the point? It's been done. Do your own thing. Even if you fail miserably, at least you have come up with something original. Listen, have fun. I just feel, do something new. Life is short. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm gonna rewatch the originals again this year. Maybe some Mouse Hunt too. This film will be forgotten for Christmas. The actors aren't bad. Clearly, it comes down to the director and studio in these cases. This will just become yet another Home Alone movie we don't talk about. We've come full circle.
I don't know why they were always trying to remake the classics.
You're what the French call les incompetents.
And there you go. Finally, we made it to the end of the Home Alone collective. While I'm sure you can find all sorts of proper breakdowns of Home Alone 1 and 2 to really settle the classic Christmas spirit, we, on the other hand, love to go into the terrible and all the sequels that came out. Now, I do know some of these are actually controversial takes. Home Alone 3 has quite the fan base, but I'll be surprised if anyone's really defending Bone Alone, you know? But I hope you've enjoyed this 90-ish minutes of the super Christmas spirit. Kinda done poorly, but otherwise I shall finally end it off there. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell us your thoughts on each Home Alone movie. I can guess which ones you prefer. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more anyway. Merry Christmas, everybody, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!